women over 35. And I am here to talk today about calibrating your romance. I'm really excited because I have some awesome points and tools that I'm going to share with you. And before I get into that, I just want to let you know that um, I am I support women who are doing too much. They do everything. Everyone relies on them. They're really excellent. And this, you might fit in the category of people I support if you are overthinking, overgiving, and you're feeling overwhelmed. If everyone relies on you and they can definitely count on you, and at the end of the day or the week or the month, you crash. So tired that you fall asleep in the middle of doing that thing that you finally made time to do for yourself. So if you paid attention and you did prioritize your things, your self-care, but it came at the end of the day and then you're too overwhelmed to enjoy it, that can be a challenge. So I've got tools that break the rules so that you can go from frustrated to fulfilled, from resentful to radiant. And yes, I do help couples. I also coach couples who are usually high achieving, people pleasing women and the men who love them. And I also coach men, especially the really nice guys who fall into similar behavior patterns. So I'm going to get into this idea about calibrating romance because I come from a um, very different position on romance and relationships because I bring, instead of trying to aim for the longevity that a lot of people are seeking, I'm actually aiming for the quality of connection. And this goes way beyond just how long your relationship lasts and what your relationship status is. So if you move up what we call the relationship escalator, so you go from dating to a more committed situation to perhaps an engagement or marriage or whatever is aspirational for you or your partner or the both of you together. And so, regardless of where you are, I'm going to be providing information today about relationships and the myths that are surrounding them so that you can actually calibrate yourself so that when you show up for romance, you'll actually be in a much, much better place. And I will absolutely give you a tool at the end of this event so that you can take it with you and take it out into your life, into your world. And I would love to hear what you come up with from that tool. So I'll say more about that later. But for now, I'm going to start really getting into this with a few bold statements. And I promise that I'll explain what I mean by what I'm sharing with you, because you may not have heard some of the things that I'm going to share with you, because no one in this society really talks about what to do about relationship. They only really talk about the problems of relationship or how to address the problems that show up, and basically the symptoms of the deeper issues inside of relationships. So I'm going to start out with a few bold statements here. So the relationship rules, the first of them is the relationship rules that we were given to navigate the ups and downs of human connection are flawed and they don't work. You might be able to tell by the divorce rate. It's still around 50%. And a lot of people are not getting married anymore. There are more single people now, people who are reporting that they're not even dating anyone. Currently the young people, people in their 20s, late teens, 20s, before they get to their 30s, are actually reporting in that they are having less sex than their parents' generation. And so there's a very significant shift that's going on. And I think what I have seen is that people are actually not experiencing the quality of connection that they did in the past because we're missing some things. So the rules that we were given are absolutely flawed and they don't work. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more about what you can do to shift the dynamic so that the way that you engage in relationship and romance actually do work. And it's going to take a little doing because we're all we're all a little programmed by society. So no worries. I'm going to walk through it step by step as we go. All right, the second statement that I'm going to give you is that romance, as we've been shown, is a fiction and doesn't apply to people in the real world who come with real baggage. What I mean by this is that when we watch movies and dramas, and we are sort of engaging in life, we have an idea about how relationships are supposed to work. All of those things were handed down to us. No one goes to relationship class in high school, although I think it would be a really great idea if we did. But because people don't go to relationship class, the things that they've been given are either a repetition of things that they've already lived, or something that has been presented to them in the form of, it starts out with fairy tales, which actually get you off on a terrible foot, or romantic rom-coms, so romantic comedies, or drama shows, or movies. So media, and then of course there's a whole social media aspect to that. But basically mainstream media promotes a certain idea of an ideal kind of relationship that is really unrealistic. The people in the dramas may have some bones in their closet, but they don't actually deal with the real kinds of problems that regular people deal with day to day. And all of those stories get wrapped up in a neat 30 minutes, an hour, or maybe, 2 hours or so. Or even if it's a series, it still comes to a nice wrap up and an end, and you don't actually see the day to day that's really happening with folks. So the stories that we've been given is a fiction, and it doesn't really apply. The last one is the most heartbreaking piece, and I almost hate and pain. I'm pained to say it to you, and I've got to tell you the truth. Longevity is overrated, and it's often the source of anxiety, challenges, and pain inside of relationships. What I mean by this is that we often are seeking longevity because longevity and the degree of commitment are the things that are valued in this society. So if you've been married for 50 years, that's like worth more points than if you've had 5 high quality relationships that were all 10 years in duration over time. So if you had a 50-year marriage, that's worth more points than consistently high quality relationships that may have come to an end in a shorter amount of time. Now, I'm not an advocate for breaking up with people, but I am an advocate for high quality connection inside of relationship. And I want to present an idea to you that's somewhat revolutionary. In regular relationships, the people in those relationships are serving the relationship. Okay. The standard romance is codependent. You have roles. There are things you're supposed to say. If I say I love you, you're supposed to say I love you back to me, or else there's a problem in our relationship. The amount of time that we're supposed to spend, after a year and a half, if the person doesn't propose to you, then it's a problem. So there are all these sort of codependent rules. Standard romance is based on scarcity, participants serving the relationship, and there are not that many people out here. There are too many people, and there are terrible people out here, and all men are dogs and women are crazy, and the people who are non-binary, we don't know what's happening. So there's a lot of there's a lot of bad nonsense being discussed that is really based in scarcity. And the last piece for standard romance that I have for you is there are rules that are about the other person's behavior, not your own behavior. So everyone's expected to uphold these rules, or you have a set of rules that we call our standards. Well, this person you can't have, same-sex friends. You can't go out with your friends more than you go out with me. And there's all this, standards and rules that have nothing to do with the people who are actually in the relationship. So people are not coming to standard romance with their full faculties. They're coming with a script that has been given to them, and then they try to go by the script, and that often ends in tragedy. So that's what I'm here to help you recalibrate. So let's talk about recalibrated romance. And the 3 pieces for that are that recalibrated romance is that it's actually centered in personal integrity. And I have a tool for this. It's called the Relationship Vision Worksheet. And that is the complimentary gift that I'm offering at the end of this session, so that you can start getting into what is, if I were in relationship, what would it mean for me to be in personal integrity in my relationships? One of the pieces of the worksheet that I use is identifying your core values, not what you like about relationship. That is also on this worksheet, but it starts with, what are your core values? So if your core values include, for example, the rules you live by, for example, like being an entrepreneur, or time freedom, or connection, or travel, or integrity, honesty, any of those kinds of core values that you live your life by, it would be easy for you to see that if someone had a value, for example, like if a value for you is freedom to travel, for example, and the other person who's in the relationship, or one of the other people in your relationships, is a person who doesn't really value that highly, you can have a conversation about whether this is the kind of relationship you want to move forward with. Or is it something that you can be in integrity with yourself in pursuit of a relationship with a person who doesn't hold that same priority or value? Okay. So that's an example of how personal integrity can actually serve the relationship. Now, when you do find someone who matches with your personal values and integrity, what you value highly in your life, when you match up with a person who is doing that, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to get to that longevity that people are attempting to get to. All right. The second piece for recalibrated romance is the relationship supports the participants rather than the participants trying to support the relationship. Okay. This is important because of how people hold relationship. It's like people want to show that their relationship is working, so much so that if people are having challenges in their relationship, their friends won't even know because it's secreted away, and they put on a good face. They present an image of their relationship that it's quality and that it's working, so that people won't ask questions. It's deeply personal to have a relationship that is not working out the way that you want it. And because of the secrecy that we have around relationships in general, we can't even get the help that we need, because the need for our support doesn't even come out until we're in a real challenge and something terrible happened, and now you have to figure it out. So someone cheated, or a boundary was broken, or there was a breach and you don't know why the person ghosted, and blah blah blah. So you have all kinds of situations that, if we were more focused on the relationship serving the participants rather than the participants serving the relationship, we would be in a very different conversation. And I understand that I get that this is an advanced idea. I only have a little bit of time, and I want to give you kind of this framework so that you can start thinking about relationship in a different way, so that when you show up to either the relationship that you're in, you can have a different conversation, or if you're showing up to the dating that you're engaging in, then you can have a different conversation with potential partners. So I'm here to serve all the relationships in whatever format they are in currently, and then help you to take the next steps so that you can support a consciously co-created relationship, instead of kind of the scripted relationships and the standard romance that we've been given. All right, last piece here is that recalibrated romance would include healthy connection and healthy boundaries. There's been a lot of talk over the years about boundaries and what people can do, and like what boundaries are and what boundaries are not. And you got to stand up for yourself and blah, blah, blah. You can't stand for your boundaries if you don't know what healthy boundaries are. As I mentioned, the standard romance is based on rules. Your happiness is based on their behavior. That's also codependent roles, where if someone doesn't show up as a strong partner or as supportive or compassionate as you would like, then they're breaking the rules and they can't be in relationship with you. Having a healthy connection is actually about you knowing who you are and being able to cleanly request and discuss the things that are inside of your boundaries. So there are only two things inside of your boundaries: your needs and your desires. Anything outside of that, if your needs are not being met, that's outside of your boundaries. If your desires are not being met in relationship, that's again outside your boundaries. So that's a really easy way to think about what are boundaries. It's not, well, if this person does this thing and then this thing, that's not really a boundary. That's really a rule. So if anybody cheats on me, it's over. That's a rule. Okay. Your boundary is if someone is not showing up and they're engaging romantically or sexually in other activities outside of the relationship, that means that I will end the relationship, or I will have a discussion about where we go from here, or I will initiate a request for counseling, for example. That is a boundary. It's about what you will do in relation to someone else's behavior, not the behavior that they need to have in order for you to be happy. All right. So I'm running on right to the last couple minutes of my presentation. So what I want to wrap up with is, if you don't leave with any other ideas, I want you to leave with this one today. Regardless of your relationship status, the ideal relationship is not necessarily one that's going to be long and forever, that doesn't necessarily serve your needs and looks good from the outside but feels crappy on the inside. That is not the ideal relationship. The ideal relationship is one that serves the participants. And if you're ready to have that kind of relationship, you have to start with what you need and desire. So, what I have for you are two pieces. One is that if you would like to check out the relationship vision worksheet and the course, I have a few videos inside of this course. There's a worksheet that you can download. It's a PDF. This worksheet was developed after years of helping different people with their relationships and helping them to get clear, to communicate their ideas about what they desire in relationship clearly to a potential partner or to their existing partner. So this works, like I said, for anyone in any type of relationship status. What I recommend, and I always say this, is fill this out by yourself and then bring it to a partner. If you're already in an existing partnership, both of y'all fill it out separately, and then you come together to have a conversation about the relationship vision. Inside of the course, there's an opportunity for you to talk to me about your relationship vision. I'm happy to, and I invite you to set up a time with me. And if you identify with anything I shared at the top of the conversation here about, putting yourself last and being exhausted by the time you get to your self-care, or if you're having challenges in the bedroom or communication with potential partners or your own partner, your existing partner, please set up an initial chat with me. I would be happy to speak with you. Both of these gifts are complimentary to you because you came to this session, and I would love to serve. If you have any questions about this, reach out to me on my website, infiniterelating.com, as well as Instagram, which is Tazima Parris. And the links for the relationship vision worksheet and course, as well as the initial chat, will be available in the talk notes. Thank you so much for listening, and I cheers to your recalibrated romance.